The rain hammered the stone courtyard, each drop echoing like a drumbeat of fate. Jonathan Hale stood frozen in the shadows, his hands trembling, though no weapon was drawn. The narrator revealed his torment, for this was the place where he once ended lives without hesitation. Tonight, he had been summoned not to kill, but to choose. Captain Marcus stepped forward and said, "History remembers action, not hesitation." Jonathan felt the weight of those words pressing against his chest. He wondered if mercy could matter in a world that only worshipped victors. From a nearby cell, the prisoner cried out, "Jonathan, please!" His breath caught, his eyes darted to the barred window. He had known that voice once. The rain swallowed the silence, leaving only the assassin's heartbeat, steady yet fractured, a rhythm of dread. Jonathan Hale stood paralyzed, his breath shallow, eyes drawn to the prisoner's face. Once this man had saved his life in a skirmish. Now fate placed him behind iron bars, begging for mercy. Jonathan's chest ached with the memory of loyalty betrayed by orders. He whispered under his breath, "I owe him a debt." The rain drowned his words, but Captain Marcus caught the hesitation. Marcus sneered, "Debts are illusions when history demands blood." Jonathan felt anger stir, but fear gripped tighter, for he knew Marcus was right about history's cruelty. The prisoner groaned again, and Jonathan's fingers dug into his palms. His silence felt like a betrayal in itself, yet every moment of hesitation bound him to the choice he feared to make. The courtyard echoed with the creak of rusted hinges as a guard dragged open the cell door. Jonathan Hale flinched at the sound, as though chains rattled around his own soul. The prisoner stumbled forward, face gaunt, but eyes defiant, a reminder of old battles shared. Jonathan thought of the day this man had shielded him from a blade, earning scars still hidden beneath his tunic. Captain Marcus barked, "Do it now. Show the world hesitation has no place here." Jonathan's chest tightened, torn between gratitude and command. He whispered, "What if mercy is stronger?" His voice broke, lost in the storm. Marcus scowled, stepping closer, his words sharp as steel. "Mercy is weakness. Weakness writes no history." The prisoner raised his head, lips trembling, whispering, "You are not who they made you to be." Lightning flashed, illuminating the courtyard in blinding white. Jonathan Hale's shadow stretched long, trembling like his resolve. The narrator emphasized his torment, bound by oaths, haunted by memories, and pierced by Marcus's unrelenting gaze. Jonathan clenched his teeth. His heart pounded louder than the storm, as he recalled the vow he made when he left the assassin's life behind. Never again, he had sworn, though here he was, knife within reach. The prisoner's whispered plea carried a weight that shook him. "If you kill me, you kill yourself." Jonathan's breath stuttered, dagger half drawn, caught between duty and redemption. Captain Marcus's voice thundered, "History waits for no man." Yet Jonathan wondered if history might finally bend under the weight of mercy, even as rain masked the tears that streaked his face. The storm quieted for a brief moment, as though the world held its breath. Jonathan Hale's dagger hovered in the air, steel catching faint lantern light. His chest burned, torn between gratitude, guilt, and fear. Captain Marcus loomed beside him, cold eyes demanding action, lips curled with impatience. The prisoner stared, no longer pleading but calm, as though surrendering to fate. The narrator spoke of Jonathan's heart, battered between the assassin he was and the man he wanted to be. Jonathan said softly, "History is written by victors but remembered by souls." Marcus scoffed, but Jonathan felt a spark of defiance kindle within. He lowered his blade slightly, the choice not yet made, but the hesitation itself reshaped destiny. Thunder cracked, and the act closed on a moment heavy with tension, the assassin torn but not broken. Jonathan Hale's mind spun as the storm raged on, his breath shallow. The prisoner's words echoed in his skull, stirring memories long buried. He had been a killer once, silent and efficient, feared by enemies and forgotten by allies. But years had dulled the blade of his soul. Now he stood torn between that assassin and the man who had sworn never again. Captain Marcus' presence weighed heavily, his cold stare pressing Jonathan to act. Jonathan whispered, "What do I stand to lose if I falter again?" His thoughts drifted to his daughter's laughter, the fragile family he built after war. The prisoner's trembling gaze begged for mercy, and Jonathan's chest ached with guilt. The narrator painted him as a man bound by chains of history, yet desperate for freedom from the past. The storm's roar seemed to fade, replaced by Jonathan Hale's racing heartbeat. He remembered the moment he buried his dagger in the ground years ago, vowing never to wield it again. Captain Marcus broke the silence with words sharp as a blade. "Do not mistake mercy for strength, Jonathan." Jonathan clenched his jaw, fists trembling under his cloak. The prisoner whispered, "You owe me life for life." The weight of that truth bore down on him, cracking the walls he built around his conscience. The narrator showed the fracture. Jonathan was no longer the assassin Marcus had shaped, nor fully the man he wished to be. He stood at a crossroads, history demanding one path while his humanity pulled at another. Jonathan Hale's knees weakened as he leaned against the cold stone wall. He recalled a night when Marcus once praised him as the sharpest blade in the kingdom. Now Marcus' eyes burned with disappointment, his voice booming, "Do not waste history's gift of power." Jonathan felt his body tremble with anger, but the prisoner's calmness unsettled him more. The prisoner said, "Killing me will not kill your past." Jonathan froze, shaken by the truth in those words. The narrator described his heartbeat clashing with the storm, a rhythm of guilt, rage, and hesitation. He had thought time could bury what he had done, but here he was, forced to confront the shadow of the assassin he once was. Lightning illuminated Captain Marcus's face, hard lines carved by years of command. He barked, "If you cannot do this, you are no longer the man I trained." Jonathan Hale's stomach twisted at those words, his jaw tightening as he turned away. The prisoner's calm voice carried over the rain. "Jonathan, you are not defined by Marcus. You are defined by your choice now." Jonathan's breath stuttered as the storm pressed harder, rain masking his tears. The narrator spoke of a man collapsing under the weight of history, but searching for a thread of redemption. He was torn between mentor and conscience, assassin and man. Each heartbeat drove him closer to the edge, where his choice could change everything. For a moment, silence settled in the storm, broken only by the sound of rain dripping on stone. Jonathan Hale's dagger still hung at his side, heavy as a curse. Captain Marcus glared, voice bitter. "Hesitation is betrayal." Jonathan's hands shook, but he whispered to himself, "No, betrayal is becoming what I swore I'd never be." The prisoner's expression softened, as if surrendering his fate to Jonathan's mercy. The narrator revealed the core of Jonathan's torment. He stood as both weapon and man, torn by the pull of past loyalty and present duty. The storm raged again, thunder cracking as though echoing his fractured soul. His choice loomed, not yet made, but his silence became its own declaration. The storm had calmed to a steady drizzle, but the courtyard stank of rusted iron and wet stone. Jonathan Hale stood rigid, his breath misting in the cold air. Captain Marcus paced, eyes sharp, as if measuring Jonathan's resolve. The prisoner leaned against the bars, his gaunt frame trembling, yet his gaze was steady. The narrator revealed the weight of history pressing in, for war drums echoed faintly beyond the walls. Marcus snarled, "The council waits for proof of your loyalty." Jonathan's chest tightened, rage flickering, for loyalty had cost him everything before. The prisoner whispered, "Do not let him chain you again." Jonathan's mind teetered, torn between Marcus's demand and the prisoner's plea, as distant bells tolled like a funeral song. Jonathan Hale's eyes darted to the looming gates where soldiers whispered of rebellion. He remembered Marcus promising glory once, yet now his words felt like poison. Captain Marcus said, "The council fears betrayal, and you will prove them wrong." Jonathan gritted his teeth, a memory flashing of blood spilled by his own hands in Marcus's name. The prisoner's voice cracked the silence. "Killing me will not silence the whispers of corruption." The narrator painted Marcus as a man desperate to secure power, while Jonathan felt the storm rising within his chest. The prisoner's defiance only deepened Marcus' scowl. Jonathan's silence hung heavy, a battle in itself, as thunder rumbled like cannons in the distance. Captain Marcus's boots struck the stone like hammers as he drew closer, eyes burning with controlled fury. He said, "You forget who pulled you from obscurity. Without me, you would still be nothing." Jonathan Hale felt bile rise at the words, for they carried both truth and chains. The prisoner spoke calmly. "Without him, you would not be haunted." Jonathan's breath caught, his fists shaking as he faced the weight of past debts. The narrator described Marcus as a predator, circling the weakened prey he once commanded. Jonathan's soul recoiled, for he knew he had been shaped into a blade Marcus wielded, not a man of choice. The storm outside mirrored his rage, lightning carving the sky. Jonathan Hale pressed forward, his voice hoarse but sharp. "I am not your weapon anymore." The prisoner straightened, his hollow eyes flashing with faint hope. Captain Marcus sneered, "You will always be what I made you." The narrator described Jonathan's rage as fire clashing with chains of duty, a storm within that could shatter or bind him. Marcus's words cut deeper than any blade, while the prisoner's presence stood as a mirror to the man Jonathan wished to become. Distant thunder echoed like armies moving across fields, signaling history's machinery grinding forward. Jonathan's heart pounded, torn between defying Marcus or sinking once more into the assassin he once was. The rain fell harder again, washing the courtyard in silver streams. Jonathan Hale gripped his dagger but did not raise it, his reflection shimmering in the wet stone below. The prisoner whispered, "You are more than what he forged you to be." Captain Marcus spat, "Weakness breeds death, and you will not stain my command with it." The narrator revealed Jonathan's torment, his chest crushed between Marcus's demand and the prisoner's faith. His silence screamed louder than thunder, his hesitation a spark of rebellion. The storm outside mirrored the storm within, thunder shaking the air like drums of war. Jonathan's eyes burned, not with submission, but with the fire of a man on the edge of defiance. The courtyard gates creaked open, revealing cloaked figures who whispered in the rain. Jonathan Hale's heart raced, sensing unseen forces watching. Captain Marcus barked at the guards, "Seal the perimeter, no one enters." The prisoner leaned forward, whispering, "Your chains are not only his, Jonathan. Others pull the strings." The narrator revealed the weight of hidden hands shaping events. Jonathan's eyes scanned the shadows, catching glimpses of movement. Marcus growled, "Ignore him. His words are poison." Jonathan felt the tremor in his chest, for he knew truth echoed even in poisoned tongues. The bells tolled again, and thunder rolled like drums of conspiracy. Jonathan Hale caught sight of a shadowed figure lingering beyond the torchlight, unmoving yet watchful. The prisoner whispered, "He has always been near, waiting for this moment." Captain Marcus's hand clenched his sword hilt, his voice cold. "Do not listen, Jonathan. Darkness seeks to twist you." The narrator described the tension as a noose tightening, for truth and lies tangled together like storm-wet ropes. Jonathan whispered under his breath, "If shadows follow me, perhaps they know more of my past than Marcus admits." The storm grew heavier, drowning every sound but the pounding of hearts. Lightning split the sky, casting momentary light across the courtyard. Jonathan Hale saw the prisoner's eyes burning with something more than desperation, almost knowledge. The prisoner said, "Marcus hides truths even from you." Marcus's jaw tightened as he snapped, "Silence, or I will end you here." The narrator revealed Marcus's desperation, his mask of control slipping as the storm mirrored his anger. Jonathan's breath caught, torn by suspicion that Marcus was not only commander, but keeper of secrets. He whispered, "What are you not telling me?" The storm rumbled in reply, drowning Marcus's pause before he spoke. Captain Marcus's voice thundered, "I made you, Jonathan. Do not forget your place." Jonathan Hale's lips trembled, his voice breaking. "You forged a weapon, but I am no longer yours to wield." The prisoner smiled faintly, despite his frailty, whispering, "Now you begin to see." The narrator described Jonathan's resolve hardening, though fear of the unknown still gnawed at him. Marcus stepped closer, armored frame looming, but the storm pushed Jonathan's cloak outward like wings. He clenched his jaw, realizing Marcus's control had begun to fracture. The rain carried away Marcus's words, leaving only the clash of wills. Thunder roared as the shadowed figure emerged further, still hidden beneath a hood, watching silently. Jonathan Hale felt the weight of unseen eyes piercing through the storm. "Ow." The prisoner whispered, "He is not enemy nor ally, but truth walks with him." Captain Marcus snarled, "Ignore the lies, Jonathan. Choose now or I will." The narrator revealed the fracture complete. Jonathan stood at the center of forces pulling him apart, Marcus demanding blood, the prisoner begging for mercy, and the shadow promising answers. His chest heaved as lightning lit his face, torn yet burning with fire he could no longer hide. The storm broke into silence as the hooded shadow figure stepped forward, cloak dripping in lantern light. Jonathan Hale's pulse thundered, his dagger lowering as he whispered, "Who are you?" The prisoner's hollow eyes gleamed, voice hoarse yet steady. "The truth you seek is here." Captain Marcus snarled, "Do not listen. That figure is a serpent born of lies." The narrator revealed the shift. Jonathan sensed Marcus's fear, rare and unmasked. The figure spoke, voice low but firm, "Your family lives because of me." Jonathan's breath faltered, every oath he clung to cracking beneath the weight of revelation. Jonathan Hale's throat tightened, the world narrowing to the shadow figure's words. The prisoner leaned forward, whispering, he protected what Marcus would have destroyed. Captain Marcus's voice thundered, "Lies spun to bind you, Jonathan. I raised you to be unbreakable." Jonathan shook his head, memories stirring of nights where unseen eyes had indeed kept watch. The narrator revealed Jonathan's mind unraveling, the assassin's clarity slipping as doubt invaded. The figure's voice cut through rain, "Marcus chained you. I freed what you love." Jonathan's hands trembled, caught between rage and relief. The prisoner's faint smile told him this truth was no poison, but salvation. Lightning struck again, casting fire across the courtyard as Marcus lunged forward, rage tearing through his composure. He roared, "You think shadows protect you? They are nothing but cowards." Jonathan Hale stepped back, eyes locked on the figure. "Prisoner," cried Jonathan, "hear him. The truth lies beyond Marcus' chains." The narrator described Marcus's fury as desperation disguised, while Jonathan's silence burned with questions. The figure pulled back his hood halfway, face lined by scars of war, but his age cloaked by mystery. He said, "I was never your enemy, but his corruption is." Jonathan's pulse thundered, his doubts transforming into fragile defiance. Jonathan Hale's chest heaved as Marcus's fury filled the air. The shadow figure's calm voice cut through like steel. "Your daughter still lives, because I chose mercy where Marcus chose blood." Jonathan staggered, memories flashing of nights his family narrowly escaped unseen threats. Captain Marcus's jaw clenched. Spitting, he twists the truth. "I gave you purpose." The prisoner whispered, "No, he gave you chains." The narrator revealed the shift. Jonathan's fire ignited, rage and gratitude mingling into something new. His dagger rose again, not for the prisoner, but against the man who had forged his darkness. The storm trembled as lightning crowned his defiance. The storm exploded once more, wind howling through broken gates. Jonathan Hale roared, voice shaking the rain, "No more chains, Marcus." The prisoner sagged in relief, whispering, "At last you choose." Captain Marcus's face twisted with rage, yet fear glimmered beneath his fury. The shadow figure stepped closer, declaring, "History bends tonight, not by Marcus' hand, but by yours." The narrator described Jonathan as a man reborn, no longer assassin, no longer pawn, but a soul standing at the edge of rebellion. His dagger shone in stormlight, aimed not at mercy or blood, but at breaking the tyranny that bound them all. The storm roared back to life as if echoing the chaos in Jonathan Hale's chest. His dagger gleamed in lightning, aimed now at Captain Marcus. Marcus's voice cracked like thunder, "You dare turn on your master." The prisoner gasped, whispering, "At last, Jonathan." The shadow figure stepped closer, calm and steady, declaring, "History demands its chains be broken." The narrator revealed Jonathan's turmoil, erupting into fire. No longer hesitation but resolve hardened by years of guilt. His past bled into the present, each scar a testament to choices that had led here. Rain hammered down as Jonathan's voice rose. "I will not be your weapon anymore." Marcus lunged, blade drawn, fury blazing in every motion. Jonathan Hale met his charge, steel clashing against steel, sparks flashing in the storm. The prisoner shouted, "Fight for more than blood, Jonathan." The shadow figure's calm voice cut through the thunder. "End the cycle tonight." The narrator described the battle as both physical and moral, each strike a clash of history and defiance. Jonathan's arms shook under the weight of Marcus's blows, but his spirit burned brighter. His voice broke through the rain. "You forged me to kill, but I will use that fire to break you." Lightning crowned the duel with savage brilliance. Jonathan Hale staggered back, blade nicking his arm, but his eyes burned fiercer than the wound. Captain Marcus sneered, "You cannot defeat the man who made you." The prisoner cried out, "Break him, Jonathan." The shadow figure's voice rose, sharper now. "He fears your freedom more than your blade." The narrator described Jonathan's heart pounding like war drums, his past and present colliding in one furious moment. Lightning struck, his dagger flashing as he countered Marcus' strike. "I am no longer yours to command," Jonathan roared, his voice splitting storm and silence alike. The battle surged, every movement drenched in destiny. The storm screamed as Jonathan Hale and Marcus locked blades, faces inches apart. Marcus spat, "Without me you are nothing." Jonathan growled back, "Without you, I am free." Sparks showered as steel ground against steel. The prisoner whispered, trembling, "This is the moment." The shadow figure stepped forward, hood dripping, voice low and commanding. "Choose not between mercy and death, but between chains and freedom." The narrator painted the clash as a final reckoning, every heartbeat a drumbeat of history. Jonathan's grip tightened, his blade pushing back Marcus's fury with a defiance born of years in shadow. Jonathan Hale roared, summoning strength born of scars and memories. His blade twisted Marcus' sword away, sending it clattering into the storm. The prisoner gasped, relief flooding his face. Marcus staggered, eyes wide with disbelief, muttering, "You are mine." The shadow figure's voice rose, echoing like prophecy. "Tonight the assassin dies, and the man is reborn." The narrator revealed Jonathan's triumph, not yet in victory of blood, but in breaking the chains that bound him. Rain poured harder, washing the courtyard clean, as Jonathan raised his dagger not to kill but to claim freedom. The storm itself seemed to bow to his choice. The courtyard was silent, the storm fading into whispers of dripping water. Jonathan Hale stood over Marcus, who knelt defeated, armor cracked and spirit broken. The prisoner gripped the bars, whispering, "Chains can break." Marcus muttered bitterly, "You will regret this mercy." The shadow figure's voice carried, calm yet commanding, "Mercy is the strength history never writes, but souls remember." The narrator revealed Jonathan's chest rising with heavy breaths, his dagger lowered, but his resolve burning bright. In that silence he had chosen, no longer weapon, no longer pawn, but a man who carved freedom from blood and storm. Jonathan Hale sheathed his dagger, stepping closer to the prisoner's cell. The prisoner whispered, "You freed yourself, now free me." Captain Marcus growled, "Release him, and you condemn us all." Jonathan's jaw tightened, torn once more. But the shadow figure's voice broke the stalemate. "Chains remain until you decide what future you choose." The narrator described Jonathan's trembling hand brushing the cold iron bars, the weight of loyalty, betrayal, and redemption pressing into his chest. The rain slowed, leaving the courtyard hushed, as if history itself awaited his hand upon the lock. With a sharp clang, Jonathan Hale broke the lock and pulled the cell open. The prisoner stumbled forward, frail yet unbroken, whispering, "You chose the harder path." Captain Marcus spat blood, growling, "Weakness will destroy you." The shadow figure's voice rose, echoing, "Strength is not in killing, but in choosing when not to." The narrator revealed Jonathan's chest steadying, his heart finding rhythm beyond the assassin's silence. The prisoner's faint smile was a fragile beacon in the storm's aftermath. Marcus's glare smoldered with venom, but his power had fractured beyond repair. Jonathan Hale stood between Marcus and the freed prisoner, his voice steady. "This ends tonight." Marcus growled, "You think mercy spares you from history's judgment?" The shadow figure stepped closer, hood dripping, replying, "It is mercy that reshapes history." The prisoner's voice trembled. "You are no longer who they forced you to be." The narrator described Jonathan's hand trembling, not with fear but with the weight of finality. Lightning no longer split the sky, only faint moonlight glimmered, casting long shadows across the courtyard. A storm of silence carried more power than any blade. The narrator spoke of history, written in blood, yet remembered in silence. Jonathan Hale walked toward the broken gates, the prisoner leaning weakly beside him. Captain Marcus remained behind, shackled not by iron but by defeat, his scowl fading into hollow silence. The shadow figure whispered, "Tonight, you live as more than an assassin." Jonathan's breath caught, the weight lifting from his chest as dawn's light began to pierce storm clouds. He said softly, "History may forget me, but my soul will not." The courtyard echoed with silence, broken only by footsteps carrying a man reborn into uncertain freedom.